The Galactic Council had been talking for 72 days. 72 days of arguments. 72 days of shouting. 72 days of nothing. The Great Chamber of Station Nexus was the largest room in known space. It can hold 10,000 beings from 100 different worlds. The walls curved upward like the inside of an egg, covered in screens that showed translations in 300 languages. Floating platforms carried delegates from species that could not breathe the same air. Water tanks held those who lived in oceans. The whole room hummed with the sound of 1,000 conversations happening at once, and none of it mattered. Because for 72 days, they had made no progress at all. Taisu sat in the back row of the human section. It was a small section. Humanity had only joined the council 8 years ago, and most species still treated them like children who had wandered into an adult meeting. He held a cup of cold coffee in his hands and watched the same argument play out for the 100th time. The Volari delegate stood on a platform of pure light. Her body was made of living crystal, and she shimmered like a diamond in sunlight. When she spoke, her voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "The Volari Collective demands justice," she said. "The Drath attacked our colony on Kethra 7. 3,000 of our people died. We will accept nothing less than full payment for their lives and the return of the sacred crystal fields." The Drath commander rose from his seat. He was massive. His species looked like someone had crossed a bear with a tank. 4 eyes sat in a face of gray armor plates. His voice was deep enough to shake the floor. "The Drath hegemony attacked nothing," he growled. "Your people built their colony on top of our mining claims. Claims that are 500 years old. We defended what was ours. If your people died, it is because they should not have been there. The crystal fields are sacred to our faith. Your faith does not pay for starships. That thorium belongs to us." Back and forth. Back and forth. The same words. The same anger. The same nothing. Yuna leaned over to Tasu. She was young, fresh out of the diplomatic academy, and still believed that the galaxy made sense. "How long can they keep doing this?" she whispered. "Forever," Tasu said. "The Volari-Drath conflict started 200 years ago. This is just the latest chapter. But people are dying. Right now, while they argue, there is a war happening. Yes. And they do not care?" Tasu took a sip of his cold coffee. It tasted like disappointment. "They care. But they care more about winning than about stopping the dying. That is the problem." At the center of the chamber, High Arbiter Thiessen floated in a sphere of blue energy. Thiessen was not a creature of flesh or crystal or metal. Thiessen was pure thought, given form by ancient technology that nobody understood anymore. The Arbiters had guided the Council for 10,000 years. They were supposed to be wise beyond measure, but even Thiessen looked tired. "We have heard the arguments of both sides," Thiessen said. The voice came from everywhere at once. "The Council will now vote on Resolution 7445, a proposal for temporary ceasefire while negotiations continue." The votes appeared on every screen. Red for no, green for yes. The chamber filled with color. Red, 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 red. Both the Volari and the Drath voted no. And because the conflict involved them directly, their votes counted triple. Resolution 7445 failed. Just like Resolution 7444, 7443, and all the ones before. The sun's glow flickered. "The resolution has failed. We will adjourn for 10 days to allow for private discussions. Perhaps in that time, both parties will find room for compromise. 10 more days. 10 more days of war. 10 more days of death." Taisu felt something hot rise in his chest. It was the same feeling he got when he watched people suffer while others did nothing. It was anger. It was anger. It was frustration. It was the very human need to do something. Anything. Even if it was stupid. He stood up. The movement was small. He was just one human in a room of 10,000 aliens. But somehow, in that moment, the chamber fell quiet. Eyes and sensors and things that were neither turned toward him. "Excuse me," Taesu said. His voice sounded very small. "Hi, Arbiter. May I speak?" Thiesen's sphere rotated to face him. "The human delegate wishes to address the council? This is unusual. Humanity has observer status only. I know, but I have something to say." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Valari delegate made a sound like breaking glass. What could a human possibly offer? Their species has been in space for less than a century. They know nothing of our history, our pain, our sacred duty. The Drath commander snorted. "Let the little mammal speak. It might be amusing." Taesu felt every eye on him. His heart was beating fast. His hands were shaking. He had no plan. He had no speech prepared. He only had the burning feeling in his chest that said this was wrong, and someone had to say it. "With respect," he said, and his voice grew stronger. "You have been doing this for 200 years. And in that time, how many have died? How many colonies have burned? How many children have grown up never knowing peace?" The chamber was silent. "You are the greatest civilizations in the galaxy," Taesu continued. "You have technology we cannot even imagine. You have wisdom that spans thousands of years. And yet, here you sit, arguing about the same thing your grandparents argued about while people die." The Valari delegate's crystals vibrated with anger. "You dare lecture us?" "No," Taesu said. "I am asking you a question. In 10 more days, how many more will die? 100? 1,000? And in the 10 days after that? When does it end?" High Arbiter Thiesen floated closer. "What would you have us do, human? We have tried everything." Taesu took a deep breath. He thought of Earth. He thought of all the wars his own people had fought, all the stupid conflicts over land and pride, and things that did not matter. He thought of how those wars ended, not with one side winning, but with both sides finding a different way. "Maybe," he said slowly, "you have not tried everything. Maybe you have only tried the things that made sense to you. Maybe you need to try something that does not make sense at all." The Drath commander laughed. "And what would that be? Human madness?" Taesu smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Yes," he said. "Exactly that." The chamber was so quiet that Taesu could hear his own heartbeat. 10,000 beings watched him. Some with eyes. Some with sensors. Some with senses he could not even name. All of them waited for him to explain what he meant by human madness. He wished he knew. The Valari delegate stepped forward on her platform of light. Her crystal body made sharp, angry sounds. "This is a waste of time. Humans are children playing at diplomacy. They have nothing to offer." "Then let him fail quickly," the Drath commander said. "It will be entertaining." High Arbiter Thiesen floated between them, blue light pulsing slowly. "The human has been recognized to speak. By council law, he may continue. Ambassador Taesu, please explain your proposal." Taesu walked down from the human section. Each step felt like walking through water. He could feel the weight of all those eyes, the pressure of all those expectations. His mind raced, searching for something, anything, that might help. He thought about what he knew of the conflict. The Valari wanted the Kethris system because it had crystal formations sacred to their religion. The Drath wanted the same system because it had thorium deposits worth more money than some planets. Both sides had fought for 200 years because neither would give up their claim. It was, Taesu realized, exactly like a fight between children. Two kids fighting over a toy. each screaming mine while the toy sat broken between them. He reached the central podium. The floor beneath him was transparent, showing stars spinning slowly below. He felt very small. "I have been watching this debate for 72 days, he said. "And I have noticed something. You are both right." The Valari delegate made a sound like shattering ice. "What?" "The crystal fields are sacred to your people." "That is true. The thorium deposits are valuable and were claimed by the Drath first." "That is also true. You are not fighting because one of you is wrong. You are fighting because you are both right, and neither of you can admit that the other has a point." The Drath commander's 4 eyes narrowed. "I do not need a human to tell me that I am right. No, but you need someone to tell you that being right is not the same as winning." Taesu took a breath. "Where I come from, we had many wars like this. 2 groups fighting over land that both claimed. Do you know how those wars usually ended? With one side destroying the other," the Valari delegate said. "That is how war works. Sometimes. But the worst wars, the ones that lasted the longest, ended differently. They ended when both sides realized that they had already lost too much to win. When the cost of victory became higher than the cost of peace." Sasan's glow brightened with interest. "You speak of mutual exhaustion. We have considered this. But neither the Valari nor the Drath have reached that point. And they never will," Taesu said, "because they are too proud. Every time one side gets tired, the other pushes harder. Every time peace seems close, someone remembers an old insult and the fighting starts again. Pride is keeping this war alive." Across the chamber, Taesu saw his friend Dong Hyan. They had known each other since military academy. Dong Hyan was Earth's military representative to the council. And right now, he looked like he wanted to drag Taesu out of the room before he said something truly stupid. Too late for that. "The problem," Taesu continued, "is that backing down looks like weakness. If the Valari accept less than full payment, their people will say they betrayed the dead. If the Drath give up the mining rights, their people will say they surrendered to pressure. Neither leader can make peace without destroying their own position." The Valari delegate was silent. The Drath commander was silent. For the first time in 72 days, no one was arguing. "So what do you suggest?" Thiessen asked. "If peace requires both sides to show weakness, and neither side can show weakness, then peace is impossible." "Only if they have to show weakness to each other," Taesu said. And suddenly, like a light turning on in a dark room, he knew what to do. What if they showed strength together? Against someone else? Murmurs spread through the chamber. The translator system struggled to keep up with 100 different languages asking the same question. "What?" Yuna was staring at him from the human section. Her face was a mix of confusion and worry. Dong Hyan had his head in his hands. "I do not understand," Thiessen said. "Against whom would they show strength?" Taesu smiled. "Against humanity." The chamber exploded, shouting in 100 languages. Platforms rising and falling. The Drath commander was laughing so hard that his armor plates rattled. "You want us to fight you?" the Valari delegate asked. "Humans have one carrier group in this sector. One. We could destroy your entire fleet in an afternoon." "I know," Taesu said calmly. "Then why would you threaten us?" "I am not threatening you. I am giving you a common enemy." He raised his hands to quiet the room. "Listen to me. Right now, you cannot make peace with each other, because peace looks like losing. But what if a third party, a small and annoying third party, tried to take what you both want? Then pushing back against that third party would not be losing. It would be defending what is yours, together." The Drath commander stopped laughing. His 4 eyes focused on Taesu with new interest. "You would sacrifice your own people for this." "I would bluff," Taesu said. "Humans are very good at bluffing." We have been doing it since we lived in caves and had to scare away animals 10 times our size. Thiessen floated closer. This is unprecedented. No species has ever deliberately made itself a target to resolve someone else's conflict. That is because no other species is crazy enough to try it. And you are? Taesu thought about the dying colonies. The children who would never know peace. The 200 years of war that could become 300, 400, forever. Yes, he said. I am exactly that crazy. The Volari delegates' crystals had stopped making angry sounds. Now they hummed with something else. Curiosity, maybe. Or calculation. Explain, she said. Explain exactly how this would work. Taesu took a deep breath. He had their attention. Now he just had to figure out what to do with it. Give me 10 hours, he said. Let me talk to my team. If I cannot give you a real plan by then, you can go back to arguing. But if I can, he looked between the Volari and the Drath. If I can give you a way to end this war without losing face, will you listen? The Drath commander and the Volari delegate looked at each other. For 200 years, their peoples had been killing each other. But in that moment, they shared something. A tiny spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, this strange little human might have an answer. 10 hours, the Volari delegate said. Do not be late, the Drath commander added. Taesu bowed. His legs were shaking. His heart was pounding. He had just promised to end a 200-year war with nothing but human stubbornness and a talent for making bad situations worse. As he walked back to the human section, Dong Hyan grabbed his arm. What are you doing? His friend hissed. Taesu looked at him. I have no idea. But we have 10 hours to figure it out. Behind them, for the first time in 72 days, the council chamber was buzzing with something other than anger. It was buzzing with possibility. The human quarters on Station Nexus were small. 1 meeting room, 4 sleeping pods, a tiny kitchen that could make coffee and not much else. It was the smallest diplomatic space on the entire station, given to humanity because they were new and unimportant. Right now, that small room held the only people in the galaxy who might stop a war. Taesu stood at a holographic display showing the Kethra system. 7 planets orbited a yellow star. The third planet, Kethras 3, was the problem. Its surface glittered with crystal formations that the Volari considered holy. Beneath those crystals lay thorium deposits that the Drath needed for their ships. Same planet. Same location. 2 completely different reasons to fight over it. Dong Hyan paced behind him. You told them 10 hours. That was 3 hours ago. And we still have nothing. We have something, Taesu said. We have an idea. An idea is not a plan. Yuna sat at the small table, scrolling through data on her tablet. The Kethra system is not officially claimed by anyone. The war started before either side could file the proper documents with the council. So technically, it is empty territory, J1 said. He was their communications officer, a quiet man who rarely spoke but always listened. Anyone could claim it. Anyone with a fleet big enough to hold it, Dong Hyan said. Which we do not have. Taesu turned away from the display. We do not need to hold it. We just need to threaten it. Threaten it with what? Our one carrier? The Volari and Drath each have hundreds of ships in that sector. Numbers do not matter if we are not actually going to fight. Dong Hyan stopped pacing. You want to bluff. Against 2 species who have been fighting for 200 years. Who have militaries that could crush us like insects. Yes. That is insane. I know. Taesu sat down across from Yuna. But think about it. What happens if we claim Kethris? The Volari will be angry. The Drath will be angry. They will both want to push us out. They will destroy us. Maybe. Or maybe they will realize something important. If they attack us, the other side gains an advantage. While the Valari are busy fighting humans, the Drath can grab the thorium. While the Drath are busy fighting humans, the Valari can secure the crystals. J1 leaned forward. So neither side can attack us without helping their enemy. Exactly. Taesu pulled up a new display. It is called a three-way standoff. In human history, we called it the balance of power. No one can move without everyone else moving. So everyone stays still. And in that stillness, Yuna said slowly, they have to talk. More than talk. They have to work together. Because the only way to get rid of us without helping each other is to join forces. Taesu smiled. Two enemies, united against a common threat. It is the oldest trick in human history. Donghayan sat down heavily. His face was tired, but his eyes were starting to show interest. They could work. It is stupid, but it could work. Most human ideas are stupid, Taesu said. That is what makes them work. Nobody expects us to do the stupid thing. The room was quiet for a moment. Outside the window, stars drifted past. Ships from 100 worlds moved through the darkness, going about their business while two species killed each other over a single planet. There is a problem, Yuna said. Even if we make the claim, even if we create the standoff, what happens next? We cannot stay in the middle forever. No, but we do not have to. Taesu stood and walked to the window. Once they start working together to push us out, they will realize something. They will realize that cooperation is possible, that the other side is not a monster, that they can actually talk without screaming. You are gambling that 200 years of hate will just disappear. I am gambling that people want peace more than they want victory. Even aliens. Even ones made of crystal and armor. He turned back to face his team. The Valari and Drath are not evil. They are stuck. Stuck in a war that no one remembers starting. Fighting for reasons that stopped making sense generations ago. They need someone to break the pattern. And that someone is us, J1 said. The new species. The ones nobody takes seriously. Nobody expects children to solve adult problems, Taesu agreed. Which is exactly why we might succeed where the great powers have failed. Donghayan was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was not a happy laugh, but it was real. Do you know what we say on Earth when someone is about to do something incredibly stupid? What? Hold my beer. Donghayan shook his head. I cannot believe I am agreeing to this. Is that a yes? It is a yes. He stood up. But if we are going to bluff, we need to make it convincing. That means I need to move our carrier into position. I need to send messages to Earth asking for backup that we will never get. I need to make it look like we are actually crazy enough to fight. Can you do that? I am human. Making things look more impressive than they are is what we do. Yuna was already typing. I will prepare the legal documents. The claim needs to be filed properly, or the council will just dismiss it. I will handle communications, J1 said. Make sure the message reaches both the Valari and the Drath at exactly the same time. If one side finds out before the other, the whole thing falls apart. Taesu looked at his team. 3 people against 2 empires. 4 humans trying to stop a 200-year war. It was ridiculous. It was impossible, Dot. It was perfectly human. We have 7 hours left, he said. Let us make them count. They worked through the night. Donghayan coordinated with their carrier, the ESS Persistence, positioning it at the edge of the Kethris system. Yuna drafted a territorial claim so legally perfect that even the Council's ancient computers would have to accept it. J1 set up communication channels to broadcast their announcement to every ship, every station, every planet in the sector. And Taesu practiced his speech. The words that would either end a war or start a new one. As the hours counted down, he stood at the window again. The stars looked cold and distant. Somewhere out there, people were dying. Soldiers following orders. Civilians caught in crossfire. Children who would never grow up. "We have to try," he said to no one in particular. "Even if we fail, we have to try." Behind him, his team kept working. And slowly, piece by piece, the craziest plan in galactic history came together. In 2 hours. Taisu would stand before the council again. In 2 hours. Humanity would make its move. In 2 hours. Everything would change, or they would all die trying. Either way, it would be a very human ending. The council chamber fell silent when Taisu walked to the central podium. 10,000 eyes watched him. The holographic displays around the room showed his face on every screen, translated into 100 languages. His heart pounded so hard, he thought everyone could hear it. He had done many hard things in his life, but nothing compared to this. "Members of the Galactic Council," he said, his voice steady despite the fear. "I come before you with an announcement. As of 6 hours ago, Earth has filed a formal territorial claim on the Kethra system." The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then the chamber exploded. The Valari delegate shot to her feet, her crystal body flashing with colors that meant rage. "This is impossible. Outrageous. Humans have no right." The Drath commander's roar shook the platforms around him. "This is an act of war. Your species has signed its own death warrant." Across the room, delegates from 100 worlds shouted and gestured. Some were angry, some were confused. A few, Taisu noticed, were watching with careful interest. High Arbiter Theson's glow turned bright red. "Order! Order!" The ancient being's voice cut through the noise like a blade. Slowly, the chamber quieted. "Ambassador Taisu, explain yourself." Taisu kept his face calm. Inside, he was screaming. But outside, he showed nothing but confidence. "The explanation is simple. The Kethra system has never been officially claimed. The Valari Drath War began before either side could file the proper documents. According to Section 447 of the Galactic Charter, any member species may claim territory that is not registered in Council records. We know our own laws," Thason said. "The question is why. Why would humanity provoke 2 species that could destroy your entire fleet? Because someone has to." Taisu looked around the chamber. "For 72 days, I watched you debate. For 200 years, this conflict has continued. How many more centuries will it take? How many more generations will die?" The Valari delegates stepped forward. Pretty words. But they do not explain why you would risk your own people. "Because my people believe that sometimes you have to do something crazy to break a cycle." Taisu pulled up a display of the Kethra system. A small blue dot showed the position of the ESS Persistence. "Our carrier is already in position. We are prepared to defend our claim." The Drath commander laughed. It was not a friendly sound. "One ship against our battle fleets?" "One ship," Taisu agreed. "You could destroy it easily. But here is the question you should ask yourselves. While you are destroying our ship, what is your enemy doing?" The laughter stopped. "If the Drath attack us," Taisu continued, "the Valari can move their forces to secure the crystal fields. If the Valari attack us, the Drath can grab the thorium deposits. Either way, whoever moves first loses ground to their real enemy." The chamber was very quiet now. "You have trapped yourselves," the Valari delegate said slowly. "And you have trapped us with you." "Yes, this is madness. This is game theory," Taisu said. "A concept from Earth. It describes how rational actors behave when their choices affect each other. Right now, none of us can move without hurting ourselves more than our opponents." Theson floated to the center of the chamber. "You have created a standoff, but standoffs do not resolve conflicts. They only freeze them. True, unless the parties in the standoff choose to work together. Taesu took a deep breath. There is one way out of this situation. One way that does not end with someone losing. The Valari and Drath can join forces to push humanity out of the system. Together, the Drath commander made a choking sound. Work with them? After everything they have done? Work with us? The Valari delegates' crystals vibrated with disgust. They murdered our people, and you murdered theirs. And they murdered more of yours. And on for 200 years. Taesu's voice rose. How many more have to die before you realize that you cannot win? Not really. Not in any way that matters. We can win by destroying you, the Drath commander growled. Go ahead. Attack our carrier. Blow it out of space. Taesu spread his arms. And while you do, watch the Valari take everything you have been fighting for. Watch 200 years of war end with them winning because you were too proud to consider another option. The Drath commander's 4 eyes burned with anger. But he did not move. Behind the scenes, Taesu knew his team was working. Donghain was on the Persistence, making sure the ship looked ready for battle, even though it had no chance of surviving one. Yuna was monitoring communications, watching for any sign that the bluff was failing. J1 was tracking fleet movements, ready to warn them if someone decided to call their bluff. After all, it was the most dangerous moment of Taesu's life. Everything depended on the next few minutes. Let me tell you what I see, he said, his voice softer now. I see 2 great peoples, both proud, both ancient, both with legitimate claims to something they value. And I see them destroying each other, over ground that neither can hold as long as the other exists. He looked at the Valari delegate. Your crystal fields are sacred. They represent your connection to the universe, to your gods, to everything your people believe in. No amount of thorium is worth that. He looked at the Drath commander. Your mining claims are ancestral. They represent centuries of work, of investment, of your people's sweat and blood. No religious ceremony is worth that. He spread his hands. You are both right. And that is why you cannot win. Because there is no compromise that does not require one of you to give up something that cannot be given up. Then, what do you suggest? Thiessen asked. If neither side can lose and neither side can win, what remains? Both sides win, Taesu said. Together. The words hung in the air. The chamber was silent. The crystal formations and the thorium. Deposits are in different locations on the planet, Taesu explained. The Valari do not need the thorium. The Drath do not need the crystals. What if both sides shared the planet? What if the Valari protected the sacred sites while the Drath mined the resources? Share? The Valari delegate's voice was quiet. With them? It has never been done, the Drath commander said. Our peoples do not share. Then do not call it sharing. Call it. Taesu searched for the right word. Call it a joint operation against a common threat. Call it an alliance to push the humans out. Call it whatever you need to call it to save face with your own people. He stepped forward, his voice urgent. The truth does not matter. The story matters. If you work together to remove us from Kethris, you both look strong. You both defended your claims against an outsider. You both won. And humanity? Taesu smiled. We gracefully withdraw after realizing we cannot defeat your combined might. Our claim disappears. And somehow, in the process of working together, you discovered that the war does not need to continue. The chamber was quiet for a long moment. The Valari delegate and the Drath commander looked at each other across the room. 2 centuries of hatred, 2 centuries of blood, and 1 small human offering them a way out. 10 rotations, the Valari delegate said finally. We will discuss this among ourselves. 20 rotations, the Drath commander countered. Our council of elders must be consulted. They were negotiating, not fighting. Negotiating. Taesu felt tears in his eyes. He blinked them away. "Take whatever time you need," he said. "Our carrier will wait." As he walked back to the human section, his legs shook so badly he could barely stand. But he kept his head high. The bluff had worked. Now they just had to see it through. The treaty was signed 15 rotations later. Taesu watched from the observation deck as the ceremony took place in the council chamber below. The Valari delegate and the Drath commander stood on opposite sides of a floating platform, their signatures appearing on a document that had taken 200 years to write. The Kethris system would become a joint sacred and industrial protectorate. Valari priests would tend the crystal fields. Drath engineers would mine the thorium. Neither species would own the planet. Both would share it. It was not perfect. There would be arguments. There would be tensions. Old hatreds did not disappear overnight, but the war was over. Yuna stood beside him, watching the ceremony through the transparent wall. "I still cannot believe it worked," she said. "Neither can I," Taesu admitted. "What happens now? To us, I mean. To humanity." Taesu smiled. "We withdraw our claim, just like I promised. The S persistence goes home. Everyone pretends that we were never crazy enough to challenge two empires with one ship, and the Valari and Drath. They tell their people that they united to push back the human threat. Both sides look strong. Both sides won. The actual peace treaty is just a detail that got worked out along the way." Below them, the ceremony was finishing. The Valari delegate and the Drath commander shook hands. It was an awkward gesture, since Drath hands were 3 times the size of Valari hands. But they managed. The chamber erupted in applause. 100 species celebrating the end of a war that had defined galactic politics for 2 centuries. Ambassador Taesu. He turned. High Arbiter Thiessen floated behind him, blue light pulsing gently. "High Arbiter, the Council wishes to express its gratitude. What you did was unprecedented. Some would say impossible." "I just got lucky," Taesu said. "The right idea at the right time. Luck." Dazan's glow flickered in what might have been amusement. "In my 10,000 years, I have learned that luck is just another word for courage. You risked everything on a bluff. Your ship, your career, your species' reputation in the galaxy. Someone had to do something. Many beings have said those words. Few have acted on them." Thiessen moved closer. "The Council is considering a new position. A special envoy for impossible conflicts. Someone who can think in ways that our ancient protocols do not allow." Taesu raised an eyebrow. "Are you offering me a job?" "I am suggesting that humanity's unique approach to problems might be useful again. There are other conflicts in the galaxy. Other wars that logic alone cannot solve. And you think human madness is the answer? I think human creativity is the answer. Madness is just what it looks like to those who cannot imagine it." Thiessen floated away, leaving Taesu alone with his thoughts. The door opened behind him. Donghain walked in, followed by J1. They both looked exhausted, but happy. "The Persistence is heading home," Donghain said. "Captain Park wanted me to tell you that if you ever volunteer her ship for a suicide mission again, she will personally throw you out an airlock." "Fair enough." "Earth Command is pleased," J1 added. "They are already calling this the greatest diplomatic victory in human history." "It was not a victory. It was a trick. Same thing in diplomacy." J1 shrugged. "Either way, you are a hero now. Enjoy it." Taesu did not feel like a hero. He felt tired. Tired and grateful and still a little surprised that any of this had worked. The observation deck's door opened again. Yuna returned with a bottle in her hand. "Where did you get that?" Donghain asked. "The Korean consulate on Mars sent it. Soju. They said every hero deserves a drink." She poured 4 glasses. Small glasses, the traditional way. They stood in a circle, the stars spinning slowly behind them. To stupid ideas, Taisu said. Raising his glass. To impossible solutions, Yuna added. To bluffs that actually work, Donghayan continued. To humanity, J1 finished. And all our wonderful madness. They drank. Outside the window, the first joint Valari Drath ship was preparing to depart. It was an ugly thing, half crystal and half metal, designed by two species who had never worked together before. Engineers from both sides had argued for days over every detail. But it flew. Against all odds, it flew. Do you think this will last? Yuna asked. The peace, I mean. 200 years of hate does not just go away. No, Taisu agreed. It does not. There will be problems. There will be setbacks. Maybe even more fighting. Then what was the point? The point is that they tried. For the first time in 2 centuries, they chose to work together instead of destroy each other. That choice matters. Even if it does not last forever, it proves that another way is possible. Donghayan laughed. That sounds like something from a philosophy book. It is something my grandmother used to say. She survived 3 wars back on Earth. She said that peace is not about ending conflict forever. It is about choosing every day to try again. The Valari draft ship disappeared into faster-than-light travel. One moment it was there, the next it was gone, racing toward a future that nobody could predict. The Council spent 200 years trying to solve this with logic and procedure, Yuna said. And we solved it with spite, theater, and alcohol, J1 added. Taisu smiled, still looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, the war was ending. Soldiers were going home. Families were being reunited. Children were learning that their future might not be written in blood. All because a small group of humans had done something stupid. That is the human way, he said. We do not wait for the perfect solution. We grab whatever we can find and make it work. We bluff and we bargain and we refuse to give up even when everyone tells us we should. Sounds exhausting, Donghayan said. It is. But it is also why we are still here. Why we survived on a planet that tried to kill us. Why we reached the stars when we had no business doing so. Taisu turned to face his friends. We are stubborn. We are creative. And we are too stupid to know when something is impossible. Yuna raised her glass again. Hold my beer? Taisu laughed. It was a real laugh, full of relief and joy and the simple pleasure of being alive. Hold my beer, he agreed. They drank again. And outside the window, the galaxy turned, full of conflicts and crises and problems that seemed impossible to solve. But humanity was watching now. And wherever there was an impossible problem, there would be a human somewhere saying the most dangerous words in any language. I have an idea. The universe would never be the same.